The cold wind moved through the busy market of Zinara Prime, a shining alien city built of glass and gold. Lights floated in the air, and the scent of rare fruits mixed with the sound of hover engines. Among the glowing towers, people wore rich clothes, their faces covered with shimmering masks that showed their family rank. But one figure walked slowly through the crowd, covered in torn gray cloth. Her eyes were hidden under a dirty hood, her hands rough with fake dust. No one could guess she was Princess Lysera, daughter of the richest noble in the city. She had everything: palaces, servants, jewels, but she was tired of false smiles. Everyone praised her only for her name. She wanted to know if kindness still existed in the galaxy without wealth, without power. So tonight she had escaped her guards. She had hidden her royal marks and covered her glowing silver hair. She looked like a poor beggar from the low sectors. She whispered to herself, "Let me see who helps someone with nothing to give back." She walked past stalls where merchants shouted, "Fresh plasma fruits, silver bread, rare crystals." But when she asked for a small piece of food, they turned away. Some laughed, others waved their hands, saying, "Go away, beggar. You don't belong here." Her heart sank. The more she walked, the more cruel the faces became. Hours passed, and her feet hurt. The floating moons rose higher. Rain began to fall, turning the golden streets into mirrors. Her fake rags clung to her body. Still, no one stopped to help. Then, at the end of the street, she saw a dim light coming from a small food stall, an old metal cart with smoke rising from a grill. Behind it stood a tall figure, not alien, not native. He was human. His hair was brown, his hands strong but worn from work. He hummed softly while cooking strange skewers over a tiny blue flame. On the board above his stall was written in old earth letters, "Jace's Grill, food for all." Lysera hesitated. No one trusted humans here. They were rare, outsiders, poor wanderers after their world had fallen. Still, she stepped closer. The smell of grilled food made her stomach ache. Jace looked up. His eyes met hers, calm, kind, and curious. He said, "Hey there, traveler, you look cold. Want something warm?" She blinked, surprised. I have no credits," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Did I ask for any?" He picked a skewer, wrapped it in clean cloth, and handed it to her. The warmth spread through her fingers. Lysera looked at the food as if it was treasure. She couldn't speak. No alien in the city had shown her kindness tonight. Only this human who had nothing gave her something. As she ate slowly, Jace leaned on his cart and asked, "You from around here?" She shook her head. "No. I came to see if people are still kind." He chuckled softly. "That's a strange thing to test in this city. Most here forgot what kindness means. But it's still around, you just need to look longer." His words struck her heart. For the first time in years, someone spoke to her without fear or flattery, just like an equal. Rain began to pour harder, so Jace lifted the small tent roof to cover her side. He even gave her his old jacket. "You'll get sick," he said. "I don't need another lost soul collapsing here." She smiled for the first time that night. "You are human. And yet you help an alien beggar?" He shrugged. "Doesn't matter what species you are. Hunger feels the same to all." Lightning flashed above the city towers, and she saw his face clearly. Kind eyes, scar near his jaw, and warmth that seemed out of place in this cold world. But before she could thank him, a sharp metallic sound echoed. From the alley behind them, armored patrol drones appeared, searching the streets. They projected a hologram of Princess Lysera missing from the royal palace. Her heart froze. The image floated in front of her, the same face, the same eyes. Jace turned to look, his brows furrowing. "Wait, that's..." Lysera lowered her hood quickly, trembling. The drones turned their lights toward them. Jace's hand moved to his side, ready to act. He looked at her with confusion and worry. "Who are you, really?" he asked. Before she could answer, one drone shouted in mechanical tone, "Subject identified, royal blood detected." The market gasped. Blades of light charged from the drones. Lysera's disguise was over, and the only one standing between her and danger was a simple human cook. And in that moment, she saw it clearly. The true kindness she had been searching for was about to be tested. Blinding blue lights filled the market as the patrol drones closed in. Shouts echoed from every corner, people running for cover. Lysera's disguise was gone. Her heart pounded as she froze beside Jace's grill. The drone scanned her face again, confirming her royal DNA. Princess Lysera of House Vereen, a cold mechanical voice said. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Lysera looked terrified. Her hood still half drawn, rain dripping from her chin. Before she could move, Jay stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. You've got the wrong person. This girl's no princess, she's barely got shoes. The drone aimed a light beam at him. Interference will result in arrest. Jay sighed, muttering, always the hard way. In a blur, he grabbed a metal pan from his cart and flung it at the drone's sensor. Sparks flew as the machine spun out of control. The others turned, their beams charging. Run! He shouted. Lysera hesitated. But now? He pulled her into the narrow alley behind the stalls. The street exploded with light as the drones fired, burning through the rain. Smoke filled the air. Jace grabbed a handle on the wall and kicked open a maintenance tunnel. Down here! They slipped inside. The tunnel was dark and wet, filled with dripping pipes and the hum of machinery. Jace sealed the hatch behind them and took a deep breath. You want to tell me why the Royal Guard wants a beggar dead? Lysera leaned against the wall, shaking. They don't want me dead. They want me back, Jace frowned. Back? She pulled down her hood. Her silver hair glowed faintly in the dark, reflecting the flickering lights. His eyes widened. You're really her, he whispered. Lysera nodded. I only wanted to see how people live outside the palace, to see if kindness still existed. Jace rubbed the back of his neck, unsure if he should laugh or curse. Well, you picked the worst neighborhood for kindness, she smiled weakly, and yet I found it here. For a moment, silence filled the tunnel, only the sound of dripping water and their uneven breaths. Then distant echoes of drone wings returned. They're tracking your life signature, Jace said, scanning the walls. We need to keep moving. He guided her through twisting passages until they reached a hidden lift. This goes down to the old district, he said. No royal sensors reach there. You'll be safe for now. As they descended, Lysera studied him quietly. You risked your life for me. Why? Jace smirked. Maybe I'm just bad at minding my own business. But deep down, he remembered something. Years ago, humans had begged for help when their world fell. No one came. Every alien empire had turned away. Since then, Jace swore he'd never turn away anyone who asked for help, no matter what species they were. The lift stopped with a clang. They stepped out into the Undercity, a dark maze of broken bridges and neon signs where the poor and forgotten lived. Children with glowing eyes played near broken bots. Vendors sold scrap tech. It smelled of smoke and oil. Lysera looked around, her heart heavy. I never knew this place existed beneath our towers. Jace nodded. Most up there pretend it doesn't. A small alien child ran past and bumped into Lysera, nearly falling. She quickly steadied the child and smiled. It's okay, she said softly. The child stared at her glowing hair and gasped. Lysera quickly covered it again. Jace led her to a small workshop hidden behind a metal curtain. Inside were tools, a small bed, and shelves of human relics, books, medals, a torn earth flag. This is my home, he said. It's not much, but no one will find you here. Lysera sat on a chair, her hands trembling. They'll come for me again. The royal fleet. They'll think you kidnapped me. Then I'll deal with that when it happens, he said firmly. For now you need rest. She looked at him with deep eyes. You trust too easily for someone who has lost so much. He smiled faintly. And you trust too little for someone who has everything. Lightning flashed again outside the small window, and for a moment their faces glowed together. The human and the alien princess, two souls from opposite worlds. But in the darkness beyond the city walls, something stirred. A royal patrol ship landed quietly, releasing trackers into the Undercity. The search for the missing princess had only begun. Lysera had found the kindness she sought, but she had also brought danger to the one person who showed it. The sound of rain above faded as morning light filtered through the cracks of Jace's small workshop. Lysera woke to the soft hum of old machinery and the smell of roasted grain. She blinked, still unsure where she was. Then she saw Jace sitting by a rusted stove, stirring a pot with quiet focus. He looked up and smiled faintly. You're awake. Didn't think royalty snored. She blushed slightly. Royalty doesn't usually sleep on metal chairs either. He chuckled. Guess we're both breaking tradition. She stood and walked closer. The workshop looked different in daylight. Strange human relics hung on the wall. A faded picture of a blue planet, cracked metals, and an old journal marked Earth 2432. She ran her fingers over the cover. You're home? Jace nodded. What's left of it? Lysra hesitated. I've heard stories. That the human world fell in the wars. He didn't answer right away. His eyes went distant, remembering. Yeah, the big empires argued over resources. We had none to trade. When the storms hit, nobody came to help. We were left to burn alone. She lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. Not your fault, he said softly, handing her a bowl. Eat before it gets cold. She tasted the food. It was plain but warm, filled with strange flavor. For the first time in her life, she was eating something not cooked by royal chefs, not served in gold plates. It felt real, but peace didn't last long. A distant buzz echoed through the tunnels. Jace's expression changed instantly. He turned off the lights and motioned for silence. From the shadows above, small red lights scanned the walls, tracking drones. They hovered slowly, their sensors humming. Lysra held her breath, clutching the chair. Jace pulled out a small device from his belt and pressed a button. The lights in the room flickered blue for a moment, then vanished. The drones passed by, unable to detect them. Only when the sound faded did Lysra exhale. How did you? Old tech, he said, smirking. Humans built it to hide from enemy scanners. Works like a charm. She stared at him, amazed. You could survive anywhere, he shrugged. That's kind of what we do. We adapt. Hours passed quietly as Jace repaired a power conduit. Lysra helped, though she didn't know much about tools. She watched him closely. How his hands moved with purpose, how he smiled even when sparks burned his fingers. Why are you so kind? She asked suddenly. Jace looked up. Kind? Yes, you helped me even when you knew nothing about me. You risked your life for a stranger. He paused, thinking. Because once someone did the same for me. When I was a kid after the fall, I wandered hungry through the ruins. An alien medic found me. He didn't ask what species I was. He just helped. That stayed with me. Lysra smiled softly. You remind me of what our world has forgotten. Before Jace could reply, a metallic knock echoed on the workshop door. 3 sharp taps, too steady to be random. Jace's eyes narrowed. He grabbed a wrench and moved silently to the door. Stay behind me. He opened it a crack and a short alien woman in worn armor appeared. Her eyes glowed faintly green. Jace? She whispered. He sighed with relief. Tara, you scared me. Tara stepped inside quickly, glancing around. You've got trouble. Royal forces sealed the upper district. They're searching every level. They think a human kidnapped the princess. Lysra froze. Tara noticed her instantly. Wait, is that? Yes, Jace interrupted. Long story. Tara shook her head. You're insane. Do you know what they'll do if they find her here? Lysra stepped forward. They'll kill you both to protect their reputation. Jace crossed his arms. Then we won't let them find us, Tara groaned. You can't fight the Royal Guard, Jace. They have sky drones, pulse cannons, and no heart, Jace cut in. That's their weakness. Tara sighed, but then her tone softened. I've got a contact in the outer docks. A smuggler named Vec. He can get you off-world if you reach him before sunset. After that, the patrols tighten. Lysra looked at Jace. Leave the planet? He nodded slowly. It's your only chance. But what about you? She asked. He smirked. I'll think of something. Her chest tightened. She didn't want to leave him, but she knew staying would doom them both. Tara handed Jace a small holomap. Follow these tunnels. It'll lead you to Dock 9. Outside, thunder rumbled. The storm was returning. Jace grabbed his old jacket and a small pack. All right, princess. Looks like your adventure's not over yet. Lysra glanced one last time at the picture of Earth on his wall, then back at him. You risk everything for me, and I don't even know what drives you. He smiled faintly. Maybe I'm just hoping the galaxy learns what kindness really means. As they stepped into the storm, lightning flashed over the broken city. In the distance, patrol ships roared above the towers. Neither of them knew that one of the drones had already caught a faint signal. Her life signature pulsing faintly through the tunnels. The hunt had begun again. The tunnels echoed with the sound of rushing air and distant thunder. Jace led the way, a small light strapped to his wrist cutting through the darkness. Lysra followed closely behind, her heart racing with every step. The deeper they went, the louder the world above them seemed, a storm of engines, scanners, and orders. The royal guards were everywhere. Keep your head down, Jace whispered, pausing at a junction. The next sector has patrol sensors. We'll go through the drainage shaft instead. Lysra frowned. Drainage shaft? He gave her a quick grin. Royalty's first time in the sewers, huh? She shot him a look but followed anyway. The shaft smelled of rust and oil, but she said nothing. Her once shining silver hair was now streaked with dirt, her fine voice rough from exhaustion, yet a strange calm had begun to grow in her heart. The fear she'd felt was still there, but so was something new. Trust. As they crawled through the narrow passage, a sudden noise made Jace stop. A faint buzzing hum echoed behind them. He turned back, eyes narrowing. They're closer than I thought. How? She whispered. Your bloodline chip, he muttered. Even hidden, it emits micropulses. We need to shut it off, she froze. That's impossible. It's bonded to my body. He thought for a moment, then rummaged through his pack and pulled out a small EMP injector. This might not remove it, but it'll scramble the signal for a few hours. Her eyes widened. Will it hurt? He smirked faintly. Only if you scream, she swallowed nervously but nodded. Do it. He gently placed the small device on her neck where the chip was embedded. Deep breath. He pressed the button. A sharp surge ran through her body like fire under her skin. Lysera gasped, clutching his arm. Blue light sparked briefly, then faded. The hum stopped. It's done, he said softly. She looked at him, trembling slightly. You didn't even flinch, he smiled. I've had worse. You forget. I used to fix war machines with my bare hands. They continued through the shaft until they reached a metal hatch leading to the surface. Jace peeked outside. Bright lights flickered across the sky, patrol ships circling overhead. He turned to her. We're close. Dock 9's 2 sectors north. As they stepped out, the wind hit them hard, carrying the metallic scent of rain and ozone. The undercity skyline stretched around them. Broken towers, neon signs flickering weakly. And the hum of hidden life beneath. Lysera walked beside him silently, watching the humans and aliens huddled in the shadows. Some sold scraps, some begged for food. One small alien child offered her a metal flower, smiling despite the rain. She bent down, accepted it gently, and whispered, Thank you. Jace watched her quietly. The princess who once lived in golden halls now kneeled in mud, smiling at strangers. Something in him shifted, but before he could speak, a loud roar filled the sky. A spotlight cut through the clouds, sweeping over the street. Jace grabbed her wrist and pulled her into an alley. They're scanning again. Stay close. They ducked behind a broken hover car as 2 armored drones descended, scanning the area with red beams. Jace held his breath, his hand instinctively on her shoulder. The tension was heavy. Lysera looked at him, whispering, You could still leave me. Save yourself. He shook his head. Not happening, her eyes softened. You're risking everything for me. He smirked. Maybe I like impossible missions. The drones passed overhead, the noise fading slowly. They stepped out again, moving fast through narrow alleys until they reached the edge of Dock 9. The air there smelled of fuel and sea metal. Through the rain, they saw a small hangar glowing with blue lights. A tall 4-armed alien stood there, smoking a metal pipe. Terra's contact, Vec. Jace raised his hand. We need passage off-world. Vec turned, his 4 eyes scanning them sharply. You must be Jace. Terra said you'd come. But the price just went up. Royal bounty hunters are watching the docks. We don't have time for price games, Jace snapped. Vec's voice rumbled. Then you don't have time for a ship. Lysera stepped forward, pulling a small pendant from under her rags. It glowed faintly, a royal crystal. This is pure energy-grade plasma, worth more than your ship. Vec's eyes widened. A royal seal? He looked between them and sighed. You're insane, but fine. Dock 7's hidden under my cargo hold. It'll lift in 15 minutes, Jace nodded. We'll be there. Just then, a distant explosion shook the dock. Lights turned red. Sirens blared, Vec cursed. They found you, Jace grabbed Lysera's hand. Move. They ran through the rain as guard ships descended. Blades of blue light sliced through the air. Jace pushed her behind a crate and fired his old shock blaster, one of the last human weapons still working. Sparks flew as drones crashed. Lysera watched him fight, every move precise, every step calculated. He wasn't just a cook. He was a survivor, a warrior forged by loss. Go, he shouted. Get to the ship! She hesitated, then ran. Behind her, Jace fought alone against waves of drones. His jacket burned, his hands bled, but he didn't stop. When she reached the ramp of the cargo ship, she turned back. Jace was still there, surrounded. Her heart pounded as she screamed, Jace. He looked up, smiling faintly through the chaos. I'll be right behind you. But as the royal ships descended, the sky above them burned red. The sky thundered as the royal fleet descended, their searchlights tearing through the storm. Dock 9 shook under the pressure of engines and explosions. Lysera's heart raced as she clung to the ship's ramp, staring back at the chaos. Jace was still out there, surrounded by drones, fighting like a cornered lion. Sparks flashed as his shock blaster burned through another metal body. He ducked, rolled, and swung a pipe into a drone sensor. The machine fell with a crash. "Come on, Jace," Lysera shouted, her voice barely reaching him through the roar of engines. Vec yelled from inside the ship. "We have to lift now, or we're dead." Lysera turned, tears in her eyes. Not without him. Another blast shook the dock, sending fire across the metal floor. Jace's arm bled where shrapnel had hit, but he kept fighting. He saw Lysera at the ramp, fear and hope mixed in her glowing eyes. For a split second, their gaze locked. Then he ran. Blades of blue light chased him as drones fired. He dove under the ramp just as Vec slammed the door shut. The ship lifted with a thunderous roar, engines glowing bright orange. Outside, the royal guards fired wildly, but it was too late. The ship vanished into the storm clouds above. Inside, the deck rattled. Lysera fell to her knees, gasping. Jace collapsed beside her, covered in smoke and blood. "You're insane," Vec growled, slamming the control panel. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" "The royal fleet will chase me across the stars," Jace coughed and gave a tired grin. "Add it to your resume." Lysera moved closer, her hand shaking as she pressed a cloth against his wound. "You could have died back there." He looked up at her, his voice weak but steady. "You think I'd let them take you after all this?" For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Outside, lightning flashed against the glass, painting their faces with silver light. Vec muttered as he checked the scanners. "Bad news. They tagged us with a tracer. We've got 10 minutes before they lock our position." Lysera frowned. "Can't we disable it?" "Maybe," Vec said. "If someone's crazy enough to crawl into the engine vents while it's running." Jace stood slowly, wincing. "I'm your crazy someone." "Jace, no," Lysera said quickly. "You're hurt." He smiled faintly. "Just a scratch," she grabbed his arm. "You've done enough. Please let someone else." "Princess," he said softly. "You wanted to find genuine kindness in the galaxy. This is what it looks like. Messy, reckless, and a little bit stupid." She stared at him, her throat tight. "Then let me help you." He hesitated, then nodded. Together, they crawled through the narrow maintenance shaft, hot air blowing from the reactor core. The ship trembled as Vec shouted over the comms, 5 minutes! They reached the vent chamber, glowing with red light. A small black tracer beacon pulsed against the wall. Jace handed her a tool. "Hold that steady." The heat burned their skin, but they worked fast. Lysera's hand shook as she cut the last wire. The beacon sparked and went dark. "It's done," she gasped. But as they turned to leave, an explosion rocked the ship. The vent collapsed behind them. A steel beam crashed down, separating them. "Jace!" she cried. He pushed against the beam, coughing through the smoke. "Go, I'll find another way out." "I'm not leaving you." "Lysera, listen." Another explosion drowned his voice. The flames grew hotter. She reached through the gap, her hand trembling. "You said kindness means doing something reckless. So now it's my turn." With all her strength, she pulled at the beam. Her alien muscles, enhanced by her royal blood, glowed faintly with silver energy. The metal screeched and lifted just enough for Jace to crawl through. They stumbled out together, collapsing near the hatch. Jace looked at her in disbelief. You lifted that?" She smiled weakly. "Guess kindness runs both ways." They lay there for a moment, exhausted but alive. The tracer was gone, the ship now invisible to royal scanners. Vec's voice came through the speaker, half angry, half awed. "You two just bought us freedom. And maybe death later? Hold on, we're jumping." A blinding flash filled the cabin as the ship entered hyperspace. Stars stretched into long silver lines, and then silence. Lysera turned to Jace, still catching her breath. "Where does this path lead now?" He closed his eyes, smiling faintly. "Away from everything that tried to own us." But outside, deep in the void of space, a royal command ship appeared on their trail. Its captain stared at the scanner, eyes cold. "Find them. Bring the princess back, alive." Lysera and Jace didn't know it yet. But their escape was just the beginning of something far greater. Something that would change not just one city, but the entire galaxy's idea of what it meant to be human. The stars outside stretched like silver rivers as Vec's ship glided through hyperspace. Inside, the air was heavy with silence, the hum of the engines the only sound. Lysera sat beside Jace in the dim med bay, watching as a small auto-drone patched his wounds. His eyes were closed, breathing steady but shallow. She touched his hand lightly. "You shouldn't have gone into the vents," she whispered. His lips curved faintly. "You shouldn't have followed." She smiled, though her eyes were wet. "You risk your life like it means nothing." "It means something," he murmured, "when it's used to protect someone who still believes in good." Her chest tightened. The human she'd met as a poor cook had turned out to be braver than any soldier in her father's army. The door slid open with a hiss. Vec entered, his forearms folded. "We're clear for now, but don't relax. Royal patrols are expanding. They won't stop until they have her back." He looked at Lysera with a grim frown. "You've made enemies in very high places, Princess." Lysera stood tall, though her voice trembled. "Then let them come. I won't return to a world built on cruelty and lies." Vec raised an eyebrow. "Easy to say from behind my engines. The moment they find us, we're dust." Jace opened his eyes slowly. "Then we stay ahead of them." He sat up, wincing, but his tone was steady. "You said this ship has cloaking fields?" Vec nodded. "Old tech human design. Still works if you don't sneeze near it." "Then take us to the outer edge," Jace said. "There's a debris field near the remains of an old Terran shipyard." "Perfect place to hide." Vec stared at him. "You've been there?" "Once," Jace said quietly. "When I was running from something else." The alien grunted. "Fine. But if the royal fleet finds us, I'm blaming the human." As the ship changed course, Lysera sat near the viewport. The stars outside shimmered like frozen fire. "The outer edge," she whispered. "I've only heard stories. A graveyard of old wars." Jace nodded. "Yeah, a place full of ghosts and truth." Hours later, the ship emerged from hyperspace into darkness. Massive chunks of metal floated in silence. Remains of ancient human ships, rusted and broken. Faded symbols of Earth still marked their hulls. Lysera's breath caught. "So this is what your people built?" she whispered. "Before the fall," Jace said softly. "Before the galaxy decided we weren't worth saving." She reached out, touching the cold glass. "They were wrong." He looked at her, surprised. "They said humans were dangerous," she continued, "unpredictable, reckless. But I've seen your kind do what empires forgot, care without reason." Jace chuckled quietly. "You sound like one of us now," she smiled faintly. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing." Their quiet moment broke when alarms blared. Red light filled the cabin. Vec cursed. "They found us." Jace rushed to the console. "How?" "The tracer was destroyed." "Was?" Vec growled. "But they've locked onto your biosignature, Princess." "Royal ships inbound." Outside, bright lights cut through the debris field. 3 massive cruisers, sleek and deadly. The royal insignia glowed on their hulls. Lysera's pulse quickened. "They're going to destroy us." Jace's eyes hardened. "Not if I can help it." He grabbed the controls. "Vec, take the engines." "I'll handle the debris steering." Vec's eyes widened. "You can fly through this?" "Watch me." The ship dove between shattered starships, weaving through wreckage like a shadow. Metal scraped the hull as they twisted past broken towers and floating fragments of engines. Blasts of plasma followed, shaking the ship. Lysera gripped the seat, watching as Jace's focus turned razor sharp. "You were a pilot," she realized. "Used to be," he said, "before everything burned." The royal ships fired again. Jace turned sharply, guiding them behind a massive cruiser hull. The shots hit the wreck instead, sending glowing debris into the void. Vec roared. "That was insane." Jace smirked. "You're welcome." But their victory didn't last long. The enemy's voice echoed over the comms, cold and royal. "Princess Lysera, surrender. Your rebellion ends now. The human will be executed for treason." Lysera's blood turned cold. She recognized the voice. Commander Varen, her father's enforcer. "Varen," she whispered, her hands trembling. "He'll kill you just to make an example." Jace's jaw tightened. "Then we don't give him the chance." He flipped a switch on the console. "Vec, drop the cloaking core and overload it when I say." "Overload it?" Vec barked. "That'll blow half the ship." "Exactly," Jace said grimly. "It'll look like we exploded. They'll think we're dead." Lysera stared at him. "That's suicide." "Only if it fails." The royal ships closed in. Jace counted down under his breath. 3, 2. Now! Vex slammed the switch. A blinding pulse of light erupted from their ship, covering the debris field in white fire. The scanners of the Royal Fleet went wild, detecting a massive energy detonation. When the light faded, all that remained was drifting debris and silence. Inside a hidden cargo pod drifting under the wreckage, Jace exhaled slowly. Lysera opened her eyes, realizing they were alive, crammed in the escape pod cloaked by debris. He grinned faintly. Told you, messy and reckless. Lysera laughed softly, tears falling down her cheeks. And somehow, kind. The galaxy thought they were dead. But in that silent graveyard of old human ships, a new alliance was born. One between a forgotten human and an awakened alien princess. The cold silence of space surrounded them, broken only by the quiet hum of the small pod drifting through the wreckage. Outside, broken ships floated like ghosts of forgotten wars. Inside, Jace and Lysera sat side by side in the dim light, breathing softly, alive against all odds. Lysera looked through the small glass window, watching pieces of her father's royal fleet fade into the distance. They think we're dead, she whispered. Jace nodded slowly. That gives us time, but not forever. He leaned back, closing his tired eyes. His arm was still bandaged, his face streaked with ash and grease. Despite everything, he managed a faint smile. You know, Princess, for someone looking for kindness, you sure found a lot of trouble. She smiled weakly. Maybe trouble is what it takes to find something real. For a long moment, they sat in silence, only the hum of life support filling the space. Lysera studied him, this human who had defied her world's cruelty, who had risked everything without asking for anything in return. You could have left me in that market, she said softly. You had every reason to. He opened one eye. And miss out on this royal adventure? Not a chance. She laughed quietly, her voice echoing gently in the tiny cabin. Then her smile faded. When we reach another world, what will you do? Keep moving, he said simply. Find work. Help where I can. Humans don't have a home anymore, so we build one wherever someone needs us. She looked down. And if I went back? His expression hardened. They'd cage you again. They'd erase everything you saw, everything you've learned about kindness. She nodded, her voice soft. Then I won't go back. Before he could reply, the pod's sensors beeped. A nearby signal, faint but steady. Jace checked the display. Looks like a beacon. Civilian frequency. Could it be a trap? She asked. He shrugged. Only one way to find out. He steered the pod toward the signal. Slowly, a small station came into view. Rusted, hidden among the debris, its lights flickering weakly. Old human design. When they docked, the airlock opened with a hiss, releasing a smell of metal and dust. They stepped inside cautiously. The corridors were dark, covered in frost, yet surprisingly still powered. Lysera whispered, What is this place? Jace brushed the frost off an old emblem on the wall. Earth Alliance Station 12B, he read aloud. It's a human outpost. From before the wars. He walked ahead, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Old consoles lined the walls, and faded photos of humans smiling on Earth still hung there. Lysera touched one gently. They looked happy. They were, Jace said quietly, before the galaxy forgot them. They moved deeper until they reached the command room. The central terminal flickered weakly, showing a faded hologram of a human officer. His recorded voice echoed through the hall. If you are hearing this, humanity has fallen. But kindness must not. Whoever finds this station, remember we were more than war and ruin. We were hope. The words hung in the air. Lysera felt something stir deep inside her. Jace stood silently, eyes glistening under the flickering light. That's what we were, he murmured. And maybe, still are. Lysera stepped closer. Then we must show them, show everyone, that humans are not gone and kindness still matters. Jace looked at her, surprised. You mean, together? She nodded. Together. You gave me something no one in my world ever did, a reason to believe in goodness again. Now I'll help you give it back to the stars. For the first time, Jace's smile reached his eyes. You really are crazy, Princess. And you love it, she teased. Before they could speak further, the lights of the station brightened. A soft voice echoed through the speakers. Unregistered life signs detected. Human DNA confirmed, Jace froze. The system recognized me. It's activating. The main screen flickered, showing ancient coordinates. Hidden Earth colonies spread across the outer rim. Jace's hands trembled. These are survivors. Scattered humans, Lysera gasped. Your people alive? He smiled slowly. Looks like humanity's not finished yet. But before joy could settle in, the station alarms blared again. A red light flashed across the panels. Royal Fleet signature detected, the AI warned. Enemy vessels inbound. Lysera turned to Jace. They found us again. He looked at the glowing coordinates, then back at her. If we run, we can't save them. If we stay, we die. She stepped closer, her silver eyes fierce. Then we don't run. We show them what kindness and courage look like. Jace grinned, his hand resting on the old control lever. You sure you're not human? Maybe a little, she said with a smirk. Outside the station, royal ships appeared through the mist of debris. But this time, Lysera didn't hide. She stood beside Jace, activating the old defense cannons of the human base. Let's remind them, Jace said, his voice steady. What happens when you underestimate humanity? The cannons roared to life, blue fire lighting the darkness. Explosions echoed through the wreck field as human and alien fought side by side, not for power but for something greater. When the battle ended, silence returned. The royal ships were gone. Smoke drifted through the void. Lysera and Jace stood together looking out into the stars. He turned to her, smiling softly. So, Princess? What now? She looked at the distant stars glowing on the screen. Now we rebuild the meaning of kindness, together. And as the station drifted among the ruins of forgotten human ships, a new light flickered in the darkness. The spark of a future where one human's compassion changed an entire galaxy.